It's after 6, so I'm gonna call the meeting of the Town of Duxbury Planning Board to order. The chair is not here tonight, so I will serve as chair this evening. It looks like we have Jennifer is on the Zoom, so pursuant to chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 as amended as of March 28, 2025. This meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by using the Zoom login information provided. And they can go to https://thelocalscene.media/Duxbury for information about Duxbury program. Okay, we have a series of matters on for tonight. I am going to take one of them out of order. And that is the continued public hearing for 51 Wadsworth Road subdivision. I understand that the applicant needs a little more time to respond to the board's most recent requests for additional information and drawings and has asked for a continuance through what date?
November 10th.
Yeah, they want to be on that.
A continuance until November 10th. It's generally practiced that if the applicant would like to do that, we'll just do that without really having further discussion. That way, nobody has to do a Mullen rule. But does anybody feel like we need to discuss this further, or can we just push to November 10th?
If I may, I just have a quick question. The decision, is that the extension for making a decision? Has that?
That's been extended to the 25th, according to the document we just signed.
Yeah,
Okay,
November 25th, yeah.
thanks.
All right, would somebody like to move to continue?
Oh, sorry, you should, thanks, Emily. The board should vote. I guess before we continue, just vote that the board agrees to extend the 150 deadline to.
Okay. So we have a motion as to the extension of the deadline to November 25th.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, Jen,
Jen Turcott, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Wayne Dennison, aye.
Lawrence Murray, aye.
Ted Gardner, aye.
Steve Gant, aye.
Okay, that's been passed. All right, then I would like to move to continue the public hearing until November 10th, the next public hearing on 51 Wadsworth until November 10th. Somebody second it.
Also moved.
There. All right, all in favor?
Jen Turcott, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Wayne Dennison, aye.
Lawrence Murray, aye.
Ted Gardner, aye.
Steve Gant, aye.
Okay, so that one has been moved until the 10th. The next thing on the agenda is the 32 Abrams Hill Road ZBA case. People had a chance to look at those materials.
Yes.
Is anybody here for that? Board have any comments? Anybody like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to refer the ZBA case number 2025-17, 32 Abrams Hill Road to be zoned board of appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Jen Turcott, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Wayne Dennison, aye.
Lawrence Murray, aye.
Ted Gardner, aye.
Steve Gant, aye.
All right, the next one on the agenda for tonight is 15 Priscilla Lane. This is another ZBA case. Mark, you here for that one?
I'm just here to answer any questions anybody might have about this.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions? This is a raise and rebuild, right?
Correct.
It's exactly the same footprint.
Actually, we're coming in just a little tiny bit less.
Anybody want to make a motion on this one?
I would like to make a motion to move ZBA case number 2025-18 for 15 Priscilla Lane. To refer that to the zoning board of appeals.
All in favor?
Jen Turcott, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Wayne Dennison, aye.
Lawrence Murray, aye.
Take out your own.
Steve Gant, aye.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, we have a couple of sets of minutes. If people had a chance to review the minutes of September 22nd.
Yes.
Anybody have any comments or proposed changes? No. Somebody like to make a motion as to accepting the minutes?
I will make a motion to accept the minutes of the September 22nd, 2025 meeting of the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Jen Turcott, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Wayne Dennison, aye.
Lawrence Murray, aye.
Take out your own.
Steve Gant, aye.
We approve the October 6 meetings.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Jen Turcott, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Wayne Dennison, aye.
Lawrence Murray, aye.
Take out your own.
Steve Gant, aye.
Okay, next matter on the agenda is the the proposed planning board schedule for 2026. The meeting schedule for 2026. People have a chance to review that. Most of these dates fall on the regular. Are there any that are outside sort of our regular schedule?
I believe the ones in October are used because of Columbus Day.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
Okay. We only have one meeting in August, but that's consistent with what we had done last year. Any people have any comment on the schedule?
No comments.
Would
It looks good to me.
somebody like to make a motion to approve the schedule?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Oh, point of discussion before we vote
Okay,
though. Because in the last few months, the planning board has revisited the policy of site visits, and we discussed doing site visits more frequently. Would it be appropriate perhaps to set a standing day for site visit? This is something we did on the historical commission, so that wasn't something we had to debate or discuss that much in advance.
we had always done it sort of in an ad hoc way, just to make sure people could make it.
Right.
So I don't have a strong view on it, but we've always just sort of scheduled it first around. First the applicant, and then.
Right, the applicant,
And then the other question, but I don't have a strong view on it. Does anybody on the rest of the board have?
I don't.
And we can,
Yeah.
and we can deal with that going
Oh,
forward.
we get this one. Just thought I'd bring it
All
up.
right.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of the motion relative to the planning board meeting schedule?
Jen Turcott, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Wayne Dennison, aye.
Lawrence Murray, aye.
Take out your own.
Steve Gant, aye.
Okay. The next matter on is relates to the planning board's fee schedule. And we have a November 2025 memo from the treasurer asking a series of questions about the fees. My initial reaction to this inquiry was, Matthew, should the fees change?
I don't see any need for them to change, especially since it looks like they were last set, or at least it says effective July 1st, 2023. That's sort of when they were last changed, more or less. And they seem to be sort of in line with my experience in other towns, roughly speaking. And, you know, I don't think it's worth, you know, making changes just to increase it a tiny amount. So, you know, unless you want to increase them, some of them substantially, I don't really see the need. I don't think there's been that much inflation since, you know, July of 2023, although there has been some. So I guess basically I don't really see the need to.
So the question I had is whether these fees are intended to address the costs of staff trying to review these materials. And if they are, do they appropriately reflect those costs?
I think it's sort of an impossible question to answer because.
I'm good at that.
Yeah, I mean, on some level, receiving the application is just such a small part of the entire process. It's kind of a question, are they paying just for submitting it or for the whole process? You know, if it's the first, then they're too high. If it's the second, then they're much too low. Ultimately, I don't think we could really charge, you know, fees that would really cover the total amount of the work involved, just because that's why we have taxes and salary, you know, that's why the town has a budget in the first place to cover most of that. So there's always going to be a bit of subjectivity here. Yeah.
That's my recollection, and maybe I don't remember this correctly, is that Chris or somebody else was doing a review of other towns to determine whether our fees were in line with what other towns were charging.
Yeah, that's how we have our current schedule from 2023.
Oh, we did that in 2023.
Yeah.
Matthew, are the fees received designated or reserved for costs for the planning department, or are they just deposited into the town's general fund account? And you may not know.
It's the general
It
fund.
just goes into the general fund, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody got further comments on this? We gotta get back to them by early November, right?
All right, well, let's just have a discussion. If the fees aren't based on cost recovery model, then they're an incentive or disincentive model.
That's right.
And so, you know, is it what we incentivizing or disincentivizing the behavior we want in the town? I guess that's the policy question, right? One thing I'll note is that in the discussions about affordable housing and incentives to increase affordable housing, one of the things that is strongly suggested is giving people rebates on fees. So it raises in my mind a question as to whether it might be wise for the town to consider having higher fees, which we could then abate.
Do they pay to the developer? Is that the proposal?
Yeah, it's an incentive, you know, reduce the overall cost of the project to increase. It's to support. I frankly have no idea how effective that is. It seems to me the fees are pretty low anyway, so they're not gonna be a significant incentive unless they were raised significantly, which I don't suggest we do.
So with respect to affordable housing, the standalone special permit fee is $500. But if it's bundled with subdivision or planned development applications, there's no additional fee, so it's just 500. That's true for inclusionary housing as well.
That's our current.
I can't imagine that $500 is gonna make or break these projects.
And for clarification, if the 500, that is the fee in total for a development, that would not be, for example, a per unit fee. If it was a multiple unit development.
It looks like it's the total, unless I'm missing something. I imagine we don't get those applications too often.
No.
But I assume it's the, I mean, I guess unless it's bundled with another special permit, subdivision or so forth. Well, I guess if it's bundled, then there's no additional fee, so even better.
Yeah.
Yes, I think those are fairly low, and I mean, I guess I could have agreed with kind of what you said at the end, Tag, and what Wayne said. In the larger scheme of things, it's hard to think these fees would be an incentive or disincentive. They're just so small relative to the total cost of development. I mean, I think what will be more important actually is these revisions we're trying to do now to the kind of the inclusionary components of the zoning bylaws. where, actually, I was gonna mention that later in this meeting, but just kind of how we, how possibly we tweak some of the zoning bylaws. Could be something that has a much bigger impact. Than, that really has an impact on sort of what kind of project proposals we get. I mean, that could be something that actually does motivate developers to submit, more inclusionary types of projects or more affordable housing potentially, or types of projects that are more cluster development that preserve more of the natural open space, perhaps.
So a couple of questions that I had. And they deal with the escrow account deposits. If we've got to replenish the threshold of $2,000. Doesn't, for instance, Mr. Brennan chew through $2,000 pretty fast?
Most of his invoices are like 500.
Okay, so 2,000 is probably right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's fine.
Then the other question I had for the board is. Some of these fees that deal with things that people seem to care quite a lot about, which is land clearing and grading, special permits. And for instance, scenic tree removal are quite low. And they're $500. I wouldn't. I wouldn't be opposed to disincentivizing land clearing. Or quite frankly, scenic tree removal. And I don't know if other towns do a similar thing or not. Those are issues that come up before the board over and over and over again. We don't have to decide on this tonight. But maybe we should each give these fees a little more thought, and then we can deal with it at the next time. This is an administrative matter, right? No.
When are we due to respond by?
Yeah,
It's a few days after our next meeting.
yeah, I think it's, let me see what I wrote in the. What was it?
It's November 14th.
Yeah.
If we want to revise.
But yeah, I guess you guys, if you want to mull it over. Or you can.
I'd
guess
like to take a look at what the tree clearing, the scenic tree and the land clearing special permits look like in other towns. So anybody opposed to just put this over to the next public hearing?
I'm in favor of that.
We have to take a vote on that, or can we just push it?
I think you can just push it.
Bring their fee proposals to the next meeting.
Yeah, just we're gonna decide then. And then, plus we'll get Kristen's input.
Yes,
All right, I think we're at the planning director's report, which Matthew, thank you very much for sending that around on Friday. It's very, very helpful when we get it in advance and have a chance to look at it. Yes.
Yeah, so let's write this down here. So for the report, I think for the most part, what I mentioned there, I mean, I think you've all probably read it or skimmed it. For the budget, for the planning department's budget for fiscal year 2027, I met with the finance committee on 10/14, and it actually seemed to go pretty well, actually. Some very minor changes were made to the budget as a result. I guess I think I moved like $800 from B to A for training and education, which means it's more likely they could actually be spent, or more likely we'll get them. And a little bit of money also in, I think $500 into dues and memberships. Just a reminder about select board meeting on November 17th. Public hearings, we'll have public hearings, it looks like on November 10th, both for the site plan review application for an ADU at 153 Surplus Street and for this expansion of the Mayflower Cemetery. That's the bigger one, obviously. If anybody's interested in being or if anybody knows anybody's interested in being a community liaison for this MVP 2.0 grant program, we're definitely looking for for volunteers. Please just let me know if you know anybody or if you are yourself.
That's municipal vulnerability preparedness.
Correct, yeah. I think part of the intent is that they're hoping to get volunteers who sort of are outside of the normal groups of people who kind of serve on the boards and committees and kind of run the normal kind of volunteers as well. But I don't think that would sort of totally preclude you guys from being on it as well. But definitely sort of try to spread the word if you know of other people who maybe, if you have kind of listservs of Duxbury residents or any other ways of kind of getting the word out there.
Okay.
And then I think all the stuff we put on Wadsworth. I Hold up on that one. The fee schedule. Yeah, I think that's about it for the report. I had 2 or 3 other things I was going to mention. Well, the only thing, as far as the zoning bylaw amendments, the one we discussed at the last meeting for the inclusionary zoning, or inclusionary housing. So MAPC, as you may recall, MAPC had kind of done their suggested edits and so forth, because we had a grant for them to do that. And then Amy Kressel had done some comments on it as well. And then the board asked me to get back in touch with MAPC to pursue it further. And so actually the people, I actually was able to kind of reach out to the person at MAPC who had been involved. Or well, actually that person, I guess she no longer works there, but I was kind of got in touch with her boss or one of her coworkers and so forth. And it looks as though, actually, I just heard back from her today. It looks as though they are willing, even though the deadline for the grant has expired, they still have a little bit more money left in it. So they are willing to do some more work on that one. And so I guess they're going to look at Amy's comments and make some suggested revisions or something. And so we just kind of have to see how that plays out. I mean, I think ultimately, Amy is going to be kind of the more crucial person. I mean, it does seem as though MAPC has some people who are pretty knowledgeable about these zoning issues, and they kind of had identified some of the problems that we have in the current zoning bylaws. So I think they can provide some helpful ideas and comments and edits. But ultimately it'll be, I think, the board and Amy Kressel who kind of get into more details and sort of make the final tweaks. So I guess if it's okay with the board, I'll agree with the folks at MAPC to continue working on it. It seems like they've already got the money, so they can do it for free, so to speak. And as far as the deadline, I think we have to submit something to the warrant by December 1st. So that may wind up being just what we have so far, something that kind of is a placeholder. I'll work that out with Nancy O'Connor and Rainey and so forth. My guess is that, there may be some revisions that keep happening in January and February. It's sort of over the course of December and January as well. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah. I have a question, not in all with the specifics of a public hearing that's going to happen in the future, but an overall question about what's the status of our ADU bylaw in terms of its review by the AG?
So that's a little strange. The AG approved, as you probably know, the MBTA communities amendment, and the AG approved, and then there were 2, I guess the ADU change actually was 2 separate warrant articles, so 2 separate zoning bylaw amendments. And for some reason, the AG approved one of them but not the other one, which to me seems a little strange because the 2 of them seem, intertwined. They kind of refer to each other and one doesn't necessarily make sense without the other. But nevertheless, the AG approved one and not the other. So we're kind of in limbo. At this point, we're sort of in limbo, I guess, in that regard. I mean, we're hoping that within the next month or 2, hopefully the AG will approve the other one as well, and it'll all be satisfactory. But for the moment.
Would you know which one was approved? My recollection is that we had one that struck a provision that otherwise would have banned ADUs.
Yeah.
And then there were one that was the substantive ADU regulations.
I think it was the shorter one, but I just can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, so I recall the primary ADU bylaw was approved, but it was the excision of the, no, the one about the non-conforming structures and all that, that we had to just blot out. So it was a way to make it workable.
Yeah, so I don't know.
And that's the word I was rejecting.
But before we have the next public hearing, we better figure it out.
So would the default be then, if we don't have AG approval, then we default to the enforcement of the state statute?
No, I think the primary ADU is there. It's just this extra stuff on the edge. If you come in with an pre-existing non-conforming structure and you request an ADU that expands to non-conformance. That's,
So I guess they're kind of, yeah, sort of two answers to that. I mean, I think on the one hand, yeah, I think once the state law was passed, it supersedes our zoning bylaws anyway, at least in terms of what it says. And so in that sense, we have to go with that. And I guess there were a few kind of smart applicants who applied for those building permits back in what kind of February, March or so, maybe, to take advantage of that, like even before we changed our zoning bylaws. And they just got building permits, I guess, directly from the.
Well, here's the reason I'm gonna ask the question, and I don't want to get too deeply into substantive issues here, but I do have one overarching question. The review of ADUs, the special permit through ADUs, that is a creature of the bylaw that was passed. And the question that I have is whether it applies going forward if we don't have AG approval.
So, yeah, I believe that's kind of, I guess, the second part of the formula for the situation. I believe that it does apply from what I've been told. Once it's passed at town meeting, they actually do take effect. But any applicant who, even though we don't actually update the zoning bylaws at that point, but any applicant who kind of does an application under that assumption is running the risk that if the AG ultimately doesn't approve those changes, then what gets approved for them is sort of null and void, so to speak.
Okay.
So to me, it seems like a very sort of bizarre legal situation. It seems a bit nonsensical, but that's how it's been explained to me.
All right, well, it sounds like we're gonna have
it's
to
very
take it out
Yeah.
next time.
But yeah, so my guess is that as far as this application for a 153 surplus, we should just go on the assumption that both of those warrant articles, those changes to the zoning bylaws are sort of in effect, at least for the purposes of this application, or of any application we receive. But it definitely is a very kind of strange situation to my mind.
Does it make sense to get Amy's input prior to the next meeting on that? I would recommend it.
Yeah, I can definitely, that'd be a good idea.
I think it's just a quick email, and should be an answer.
You know, sometimes it's been explained to me, I think a few times, that once the Attorney General approves it, then it's valid kind of retroactively from when it was passed at town meeting. But again, that doesn't really answer the question, like, what do you do when you get an application?
Amy will know.
Sure.
All right, unless there's something else to do tonight. Would someone like to move to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Matthew Ray, aye?
Wayne Dennison, aye.
Lawrence Murray, aye.
Take our, right?
Steve Kent, aye.